so my background, I'm actually a chartered accountant, but I've always been very passionate about the need for education in South Africa. So one of my previous roles, I was working with a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses and helping them to grow. And one of the key differentiators that I saw with the companies that were growing, massively and well, and they were high impact, there was always a strong foundation of education. And so that kind of started my journey in the education world. I'm not a teacher, but I've been working in education now for, I don't know, Colin, long. Not as long as you, but fairly long. I've been running, education conferences, and I've been doing a lot of different things in the education world. But the last company that I founded, we were doing Microsoft programming courses in high school. So we would kind of do it as an extramural opportunity for high school kids, and we would bring facilitators to the school, and we would, run classes, etc. And that experience really showed me the kids are very hungry for tech and for what the new careers are, but they're quite clueless. And I'm being stereotypical based on my experience, so I'm not going to say that your kids are clueless, but they're clueless about what the job realities are of a lot of these careers. Some don't even know what the careers are, and if they do, then they don't know. They find it very overwhelming to figure out what are the pathways to access that career. What are the skills needed? What do I need to do to kind of prove myself in that career path? And so for me, there was a real gap to be able to make that easy for kids. So first of all, taking content that is understandable for a kid, because if any of you are in the tech space and you've done any technology courses or degrees, you will know that it is very complex. It's presented in a very kind of complex way.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said very confusing.
Yeah, it can be confusing, and it makes it seem almost too high level for a kid to be able to grasp, and that's wrong, because the concepts aren't always that complex. And if you just take them bring the concepts down to examples that a kid can relate to, then it can make all the difference. So that's essentially what Takeaways is about. It's also trying to bring it to more kids by being online, and I know you parents are advocates of that. But it makes it easier to be able to democratize the platform more, so that more kids across the country, not just those in fairly good schools, can access. I want many more kids to be able to access this across the country and maybe even the continent. So that's a long introduction, Colin.
That's fairly thorough, that introduction. I mean, we met when you were working with me when I was at Abbots Joburg South. Well, actually before that, but most recently at Abbots Joburg South, doing some diagnostic work on the mathematics so that we could get a handle on where children were. And when we met to discuss the possibility of using Takeaways in Evolve Online, I became very excited by the career types that you were talking about. We hear very often about, things like data security, things like ethical hacking and data, big data and data management, and even the fact that children can learn to code. I'm giving away all your secrets here in advance, but certainly it was the 6 packages that are tied up into this, and the fact that I've got this opportunity to make sure that all our senior students get an opportunity to have access to that kind of a resource and to get proper certification. But I'm going to leave you to kick off and talk through your presentation a bit and tell us a little bit more about what our children involved have got the opportunity to encounter.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah, I mean, essentially, let me see if this is essentially what I had planned to talk to you guys about today. The purpose for me of doing this session is so that you as parents, and if I've got any kids online, welcome to you as well, but to try and almost get on the same page about what it is that we're trying to achieve, what it is that we're offering, and so that we can, kind of meet your expectations. The other thing is that we're very new. We've only started out this year, so I would like you to walk the road with me. And if parents have got suggestions or kids have got suggestions about courses or things that you'd like to see on the platform, this is my kind of plea to you as well, to feed those suggestions to me. I'll show you all of the support, the kind of communication lines that I will open up to you so that we can have that direct communication. So what I wanted to cover was our vision. What are those career pathways? I'm going to give you a sneak preview into some of the courses. Wanted to get onto the same page with some of the expectations and how your kids are going to get the most out of this. You'll meet the team, although today you're only meeting me, but I'll show you the others. And then I've got a small plea that I want to ask you, and then we'll have a chance for Q&A. My vision with TechWares is really to be able to give high schoolers a head start. There's no reason why you have to wait until university to get all the skills required to be able to access the technology world. A lot of the things, the skills and the projects that we built onto our platforms, kids can do already. And yes, there's still a value in, obviously there's value in university and tertiary education, but you can get a huge head start on your peers already in high school now. The stuff that we're teaching is things that you can, up to now, you could mostly access post-high school only. How are we achieving that? These are our kind of 4 pillars. Every single one of our courses have got real projects built in, and that's incredibly important to showcase for future employers. Employers actually care less about what you've learned, what qualifications you have. They're really, in the tech world, it's kind of like in the art world. If any of you are in art, or you got to show your portfolio. That is what proves what you can build and what skills you've got. But of course, global certifications do set you up, do kind of put you one up against someone that doesn't have a certification. And so we've partnered with Microsoft a lot. We've got CompTIA, Certified Ethical Hacker. Like, there's a few different global companies that provide, that we have seen bring the right kind of course content in, and we've partnered with them, but taken their content and repackaged it for a kid, because you can't just take what they've done and give that to a kid. It's not appropriate. I'm going to talk to you in.
I could just interrupt you at that point for a moment, because I think this is important to just emphasize. Anne was one of the key reasons why I was so excited to partner with you guys on this, and that's that idea, the 2 things you mentioned, the idea that there is going to be a portfolio of work which serves for the child as proof of the fact that they've in fact created these objects and are skilled in these particular areas. But also that certification side, that sort of legitimizes what we're doing, so that you can start to build a CV for yourself in a world where, as you say, what you've studied doesn't matter as much as proof that you can do the kinds of things that the employer needs you to do literally in the workplace. And for a lot of these careers, these are very mobile careers. These are careers where they're not necessarily tied into a specific geographical area. A child who can do this could actually start, and the parents are going to get me, to say the following: the kids can start earning their own income already, really, if they're talented enough, and they can start paying their own school fees, which parent wouldn't want a self-sufficient student paying their own fees as they go along? But jokes aside, this is really one of the key issues. But go ahead and I'll stop interrupting.
Colin, it's not really a joke, because I do have some learners that have built this platform with me. They have been, walking the road with me and adding to the content and doing web development on the back end. The talent that is out there amongst our kids always astounds me, constantly astounds me. So it's not a joke. It's definitely possible. The support I'll talk about in a few slides time. And then the other thing that we are working on, we're piloting it this year, But so it won't be for every learner on our platform, but we want to be able to have the opportunity for learners, our kind of top learners, to do job shadowing with companies. So each of our pathways, and I'll show you our pathways next, we have a company plugged into that pathway that will then have a job, like a holiday job kind of opportunity. So that's just kind of more long term. Obviously, COVID is blowing that up entirely for this year, but we're still going to try and pilot it this year so that we can roll it out next year. I do want to show a short video to you, if I may.
As a parent these days, I think it's very overwhelming to see where the world's going. You know, it's hard if you've got children to kind of advise them if you don't know yourself. No matter what happens in the world, we're going to have technology. We're going to have software in that technology. So being in the world of software is probably one of the safest things you can advise your children to do.
The world is changing. Our curriculum is changing at a much slower pace compared to the world. There are new technological advancements every single day. We do need to implement more exposure to cutting-edge technology skills in our high schools.
So you as a high school student, you know, where do you start? Start early. Start early as you possibly can, and start creating and building things and building your portfolio. Learn these skills so that when you get to the job space, you've got years of kind of experience and things to showcase.
I think that if we incorporate a TechWays platform with our high schools, learners can create games and programs that can carve out an exciting future.
The great advantage of the TechWays approach is really around the coursework is essentially guiding people down specific career paths.
Through TechWays platform, we learned that it's not impossible. We can do it. Every little thing that we learn makes it easier. After creating your first mobile app, it becomes easier, it becomes less daunting. You gain more confidence.
One thing about software that people don't understand, it's the most creative thing. It's like creating a painting, except it's in code. And it's an outlet for creativity and imagination. So there's many positive spin-offs.
Unfortunately, we live in a world where having a degree is not enough to guarantee you a good job or a job that you want. I think what sets you apart is these extra qualifications and these courses and skills that you learn on the side.
So these are our pathways. Colin was mentioning cybersecurity, data science, game development, web development on the front end, on the back end, and mobile app. And how we populated, so on each of those pathways, and I'm not going to go through all of them and what courses there are on each of them, but if you go onto our website, you'll see them on our homepage. But each pathway, we've got 3 courses on for now. We're building, you know, as we go, kind of thing. But how we populated those courses was, I have companies that are kind of experts in each of these fields, and ask them, you know, what are the courses and the skills that you would like to see if you were going to hire a young intern or junior employee? What would be the skills that you'd like to see? It's obviously not going to make them experts. There's still a lot more that they will need to learn beyond this, but like a starting point, a good kind of entry point. And once I had that answer, then we both, the company and I, went and looked at the courses that are out there, the global qualifications, and said, okay, these are the right ones for this pathway. So that's just a little bit of background on how we went about it. So what you have available now, because we are still building, is that we only have these 3 pathways available. So the mobile pathway and the course level 1. And how our pathways work is that you need to first complete course level 1 before you move on to course level 2, because there's a lot of kind of prior knowledge that you need to know that gets covered in course level 1. So on mobile, our course 1 is programming in C#. Now, I'm going to give you a little preview of that, but this is a really, really good course if you are wanting to go into computer science, because it covers all the bases of, you know, oh, now I've got all of my, you can see all my tabs open.
Nothing embarrassing there.
Yeah, you can see how I've been multitasking for the day. But so this course covers a lot of the basics of programming. It's almost touches on university year level 1, some of the concepts, but presented in a way that's much more easy to grasp. So, you know, this kind of gives you a sense. The part 1 of this course covers programming fundamentals, as well as object-oriented programming using a game. So you know, again, we always try and create storylines that are fantastical and fun for the kids. So in this storyline, there's a lecturer, and she's building an army of dragons to defeat, you know, I think the evil person is called Nixa or whatever. And the idea is that you are having to, so let me kind of show you.
Can we substitute the name for one of our competitors in as the evil person?
No, Colin, because this is not just for you. But that's hilarious. So this kind of walks you through the journey that they're going on for the introduction to programming. So they first are learning about the basics, then they're going into decision structures, and you're creating forks in the road to try and defeat evil Nixa. Sorry, we cannot replace it with whatever your competitor is. Then we go into repetition structures, where she's going to be solving riddles to get past. And all of this is using C# programming concepts. And a lot of the programming concepts you're learning in here applies to other programming languages as well. So it's a really good foundational course. It's actually a Microsoft course. So that's the one that that's the mobile one. And then on the front end web development, we've got HTML and CSS. Now, obviously, in that course, the project that you're doing is web development. You're developing your own website. However, we try to make it not just normal and boring, because the kids do not like that. We have had ample feedback that have told us, if you're just developing a website for someone, that is a little bit boring. So instead of a website in the current world, the year is 2050 and a meteor is about to destroy the earth, you know, and there is an everwave that is going to be coming and crashing in all the cities. And the only way you can save is by launching a space rocket in 2021. And fancy this, how are you going to do that? There's a time portal, by building a website in 2021. And yeah, so then we go through the whole process. I mean, you can see here on the left, you know, we're going through all the aspects of HTML and CSS, but all of this is to build this website where you are saving the earth in 2050. Yeah, so it's just a little bit of fun. And then of course the game, sorry, Colin?
I was going to say, I like that, because if you look at the Evolve platform with the senior phase, what we've tried to do, and I'm very excited because we've got new content that's been developed for us coming in shortly. And what we've tried to do is integrate subjects so that it's not as simple as now I'm learning history, now I'm learning geography, now I'm learning science. But so, for example, we started off with colonization of Mars, and the question became, you know, if you're going to Mars, what currency are you going to, if you're colonizing Mars, what currency are you going to use? And that led to some really exciting debates between the kids about, do we just pick up rocks and use the rocks as our currency? Why would we use the same currency as Earth? And then there was also one of the most fun things, because I've watched a few of the recorded lessons of the children having this debate, but we had the children imagine that they were native inhabitants of Mars. And now these Earthies were arriving, and so they had to plan an anti-colonization campaign and do protest posters and all that kind of thing. And we find that when we engage children through story, people learn through story a lot better than they learn through, you know, here are the facts. And if you can create a narrative around the learning process for children, they become a lot more engaged with their learning, and as a result, the learning becomes a lot deeper than the sort of superficial stuff you get when kids just learn things off by heart in order to regurgitate in an exam. But it's a very uncomfortable space for people, because it's not familiar. It's not something that parents experienced as students at school themselves. It doesn't have the traditional trappings that you can use to measure success. So we've had to redesign how we report on this and give parents tools. That's another exciting thing because it's nearly complete, that app. And we're going to be launching it shortly as well. And it gives parents an opportunity to drill down into their children's learning. So when I hear that your app uses that same kind of narrative approach to teaching, I think there's a great synergy between the methodologies of Evolve and TechWays.
And some of your Mars storyline, although our planet is called Sparta, it's in our PHP course. It's similar kind of thinking, except we're building a drone to kind of save the, anyway. Yeah, but the feedback from the kids is that, and this was extensive feedback on the programming and C# course, is that when there's a storyline to attach concepts to, they remember it so much easier than, you know, so one of the learners, I remember she was saying, you know, I couldn't remember what the for loop was and what the while loop was, you know, that was in the decision structures and repetition structures, but I could remember that Electra had to take the left fork, and you know, and that was how she remembered the concept. So,
learning through association. But I was also going to say that I've read some really interesting research around encouraging female students to become involved in coding. And one of the, I think it was Stanford who did the research, found that when the coding was story-based, the girls in the school were more likely to engage in coding behavior. Whereas if it was simply, you know, writing lines of code, that tended to be less attractive to them as a pastime. You know, they were less engaged by just having to move the block from, you know, the turtle from the top to the next to the down. It was more about, can I save the world, or can I, you know, and I, you know, used to do a developing apps for the iPad course with my kids in a previous school. And because it was a story-based system that we used, I found that there was much more sort of equal participation across both genders in the work that was being done.
That's great. I'd love to see that research, Colin, because that's yeah, that's also one of my hidden agendas, to get more girls into this field. So then the last path that we've got currently is the game pathway, game development, where we've got Unreal Engine. So the kids are building a game. It's like a little maze game that they've got to get through. And then we've also got Blender, which is the course level 2, where they are, I think they're building it's a quest, and they've got to build a treasure chest to kind of get, yeah, it's complicated, but anyway, so that's what is available currently. But then from July, we are going to, and it's probably more like the end of July, we're going to have the other 3 pathways ready. So cybersecurity, we've got Linux Essentials, and Linux is a very, you know, anyone in the tech space, you know, Linux is a operating system that you need to also know if you're going into web development on the back end. And data science, we've got an Excel, so it's Microsoft Excel data visualization course. And then I was talking about the programming in PHP is a very important back-end language. Then from September, we're going to have more and more of the courses ready. So we've got, you know, Power BI coming in for the data science pathway. On cybersecurity, we've got Security Plus for CompTIA Security Plus course, and there's a whole bunch, but as I said, you can go and check on the website, techways.online for all the info. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time setting expectations. Each of these courses take around 3 to 4 months to complete. I designed them in a way that looking at learners spending 1 max 2 hours a week, because there's a lot of other stuff that has to happen, you know, sport and academics and, you know, just play time, etc. So this isn't meant to take over kids' lives. I don't want it to. And if they are doing a cadence of about 1 to 2 hours a week, it'll take them about 3 months to complete. Very importantly, all of our tasks and our modules have got built-in tasks where the kids are coding on a live IDE, like a live coding environment. And the kids, if they're not going to actually go and do those, I mean, first of all, we don't allow them to carry on in the course if they haven't submitted their task, but they can submit a poor task, and the point is that we want them to try and put as much effort into getting the tasks right and you know, doing the quizzes so that we actually. Sorry?
If they submit a task and it's not quite at the standard that, you know, like they rush through it or something like that, do they have an opportunity to redo it and submit it again?
They can, and they can also see that it's wrong before they've even submitted the task. So, you know, essentially you know, most people will probably get it perfect before they even submit it, because the IDE will like tell them that there's a line of code that's wrong, and they've got to correct it. The same with our quiz, like our test your knowledge activities. We give them a chance to do as many of them as they want. We have a pass requirement of 60% for our quizzes, which I know seems like a high bar, but if you're going to be doing,
it's not enough. We use a mastery-based approach, so our bar is actually higher than yours.
Okay. Yeah, I had it higher, but I brought it down because I got some complaints. But I think, wow, 100%.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't learn half of the alphabet. So, you know, the 100% stuff tends to be lower down in the grades where you know, that's foundational. So you can't progress with that kind of gap in your knowing. It's not one. So we might set our own evolve level for this.
We can do that. We can discuss that.
I'm just saying.
Cool. Let's discuss that, Colin. But let's first let the kids go in, and we can kind of judge on the feedback whether we need to set it higher. And the last thing around the certification. So at the end of each course, at the end of every module, the kids receive a badge for that module, so that, because there might be cases where they kind of go. Well, I don't think this will be the case for Evolve, but with some of my kids on the platform, you know, they go 3 modules in and then they realize, no, actually they want to try another course. Then at least they've got the badges for those modules that they've completed, to kind of show what they've done. But then at the end of the course, they get a TechWare certificate. If you are wanting to certify with Microsoft or with CompTIA or with any of the kind of global tech companies out there, there is an exam additional cost, but we get a very good discount from the Microsofts of the world. So I think it was 500 Rand the last time. You know, it fluctuates with the US dollar, unfortunately, but yeah, we were able to get it at 500 Rand, which is about a third of the price of what you.
I would like to explore whether our relationship with Microsoft as Advitech would give us access to these certifications at an even better rate. So there's a good chance that, you know, because Advitech is one of the preferred partners of Microsoft in South Africa. There may not be, but it's worth me, now that I've heard you say that, just reaching out to our IT division and seeing if they, because of our size, whether we can leverage a better price.
No, that would be amazing.
You know, or whatever it is, 30,000 students across our schools and tertiary division use a Microsoft license. So we have that buying power component. So I've made a note to myself now that I'll reach out to our tech guys and see if we can get a better price for our kids.
Great. Yeah, and not everyone's going to want to, you know, do the Microsoft exam. It's for those that really are wanting to get that extra stamp and, you know that this is their career for them. Then it will be a helpful stamp to get. This is the team. So there's me, there's Kenneth, who's our computer science developer. He's done most of the courses, but actually that learner that was the grade 11 learner that was on the video, she's also done some of the computer science, the C# course with Electra and the Dragon. Some of that stuff was her. developing that, because, you know, what better person to know how to bring the concepts down to a high school level than a kid, and she did an amazing job. So I've got a few learners that are also kind of contracting to me and helping build the platform. And then we've got Ferial, who's a e-learning manager. She's worked at a bunch of different companies like APSA, etc., in the training in a training role. Lastly, my plea, and then I'm going to open up to chat, is so as I said, we are new, so we started up this year. I would like your guys' input to help me make this platform as amazing as possible. So suggestions, things that you think would be, and I've opened up a WhatsApp group specifically for Evolve so that the kids can, you know, add suggestions, add any issues or bugs that they find, because there might be some, but we immediately fix it on that WhatsApp support. I've also got a Discord channel where that's open for all the TechWays learners, and it's course related, so the kids can go into the course that they're in and ask questions. They get answers from other kids, but also we have moderators on there to give answers. And then lastly, we've got a helpline that's on every single course page. We've got a little question mark, which is, you know, a helpline button that takes you straight to a query box where we give it's not immediate response. So Discord and WhatsApp are pretty much immediate responses. The helpline is within 24 hours. So I'd really like to ask you guys, as well as your kids especially, because you'll have much less involvement in this than they will, but I would really love to have the kids walk this journey with me. And you know, if there's a course that they want, or if there's a thing that you know, one of the things that a kid has asked me recently is, couldn't we have some videos where people in the industry are kind of talking about the job reality, and that can be embedded within the course, but it's from a more local context. So there's lots and lots of suggestions that I would love to get to make this platform just more you know, valuable. So thank you, everyone. That's it from me.
Okay.
I'd love to hear questions.
Yeah, we've got a few questions already, Joanne, and I'm going to go, although Stefan's question came first, I just want to quickly find out from Angie. So what I'm going to do now, because I can, is I'm going to unlock everyone's microphones so that you will only be muted by your own, you know, you're now self-muted. It just takes me a little while to do that, so because I have to do it. There we go, Kenneth. If you don't mind muting your mic. Okay, so people are unmuted, so they can jump on and answer their and ask their questions. But we've got two questions there, and I just want to ask Angie, because her question is about the cost of the courses. If you're an Evolve student, the cost of the courses are included in the cost of your fees. So we budgeted for a number of opportunities for our students, and so any Evolve student doesn't pay to do the TechWays courses. You'll be given your login. You'll actually be using your same credentials that you use to log into the Blackboard Ultra platform. The price of it is covered, except for that, a professional certification. Obviously, if you're going to get a Microsoft certificate and that costs money, that isn't covered in the fees. But as far as the TechWays product is concerned, that, you know, that's part of your Evolve online fees. You may be on the call as a private individual, and having heard me just say that, you might just want to suddenly become an Evolve parent, because obviously we know which way to go. But if you are on the call as an individual, Joan, what would it cost for a private person if they sign up on your website? What would it cost for them to have their children on your course?
So we have a subscription model, which I think is probably the most relevant, because you get access for 250 Rand a month. You get access to all the courses, and you can kind of navigate between any of the pathways.
Yeah, and just to be clear, my students also can navigate between any of the pathways. That thing that you said about about if they start down one path and then they find that it's not for them and jump across to the other path. We're not unhappy with that. In fact, we'd encourage children to experiment as much as possible. Don't stick with something because you think Evolve wants you to finish it. I'd rather you stuck with continuing to explore the different pathways, and I would be most pleased if most of my students at least earned a badge in each of the learning pathways, so that they get a nice broad spectrum exposure to these things. And then if I go to Stefan's question, Stefan, I'm not quite sure if I understand what you're asking, and I wonder if you would be willing to just come, on mic and ask your question on mic, so that we can understand what you're asking.
Cool. Thanks, Colin, for the opportunity. The question is, these courses have been built to help kids to understand what is going on in real life. And these are based on courses going forward. So if we look at IT security, we've got CISSP, we've got CISA, and a lot of other things. So the question is there a mapping to say, well, if you go through this course, in the adult world, this is the qualification, this is the next step, and this is how we're going to get you into that space. Because the quicker these guys learn, the quicker they understand, and the more they can challenge the process and they can get certified within those spaces as well.
Stefan, I'm going to try and answer your question, and then if I'm not answering it properly, then you'll figure it out and you'll ask it again. Okay. So what I think you're asking is that so each of these courses, there are the courses that they're exactly the same course. For instance, on cybersecurity, the Linux Essentials course, ours is based on the Linux Essentials Institute's course. That is, an available course that you could do as an adult. However, we've changed the storyline and the tasks. I mean, the task is exactly the same. I mean, if you're coding something, whether it be to build dragons or whether it be to build a calculator, it's very similar coding that you're doing. It's just that we are applying storylines to it that make it more exciting and accessible for the kids. But the content that they're covering is exactly the same. We actually take the course outline from Microsoft and we make sure that we're covering off every single thing, exit level outcomes that Microsoft requires. We're covering those off on our side. It's just that we do put a spin on it to make it more fun for the kids. So there could be an argument. I don't know if that answered your question. I do foresee that in that you could argue that, okay, but that's not really real world then, is it? There is that argument. However, they're building the same level of code. They're doing the same kind of tasks. On our Excel course, for instance, they're building a model that is helping them to, what is the storyline again? It's something to do with a pirate that they're trying to map out the pirate's a journey over the last 5 years so that they can go and figure out how to get the pirate. So it's like trained analysis over the last 5 years, where the pirate went, what loot he got, etc., etc. You can see that can very easily also be applied to trend analysis for, the weather pattern or whatever, might be in the real world. I don't know if that's answering your question, Stephen.
So the question is around certification with Microsoft themselves. I think it's just getting to the next step, just that certification.
So that is an add-on, and we can facilitate that exam. So right now, Microsoft, for instance, is doing all their exams online. So we can facilitate that and get the exam vouchers, book the exam for you, etc. But it is an add-on cost. It's not. We kind of get you to the point that we've covered the content. We've given you little exams and tests along the way, so that you've covered that content. but then doing that exam would be for your kid to do separately. We do also offer.
Can I interrupt you for a moment, Joanne, just to add to what you're saying? So this is the area that I want to explore, Stefan, because I have half a memory that, you know, Advotech follows the ITSE standards for trying to get kids computer literate. And one of the things they're trying to encourage is for the students within the Advotech group to gain these certificates, these Microsoft certificates and various certifications. So it may well be, I'd like to do some research on that and give you some more information, but my understanding of what Joanne is saying is it is a proper Microsoft certificate if you pay for the examination, and your child is prepared through the process to succeed at writing writing the exams by doing the work.
Cool, I'm happy, thank you.
Cool. And then Angie just asked a question which I half anticipated getting, you know, which is the sort of, I've got a younger child who's not in the group that are starting out at the beginning, where we've targeted the level 9s and 10s, or the grade 8s and 9s. So what about giving it access to that child? My answer is we have bought additional licenses. In fact, we've purchased enough licenses to do the entire grade 7, 8, and 9, or level 8, 9, and 10 group, plus a few spare. So if I've got a talented, you know, grade 6 or level 7 child, they too will be given access. For me, it was about, we've got different strategies for teaching children digital mastery and coding at different phase levels. But we are, I mean, one of the key foundations of Evolve is the idea that a child can progress at a faster rate than what is the average. So yes, by all means, Angie, I'm very happy to make a license available for your daughter. Please pop me an email, or I will actually try and pop you an email, or get one of the team to do that, so that we make sure that we include her in that. And likewise, if
Colin,
any other...
I think Angie's question was the opposite of that. From what I'm reading, it was,
sorry, I wasn't reading.
He might not want to participate.
The daughter isn't interested. Oh, sorry, my bad. I was getting all excited because the daughter was interested and not the son. But the concept remains the same, because then I have to assume that your son is in a younger grade than your daughter. So whereas your daughter would qualify straight away to get access, your son might not, because he's in a younger grade. Reach out to me. We'll make it happen. It's part of our model. Any other questions? Does anybody else want to come on mic and ask a question? I've unmuted most people. I've just got one person that I muted because they have a live mic at the moment. Anybody? Any comments? I wouldn't mind hearing from a parent or two about whether or not you consider this a worthwhile thing for Evolve to be procuring on behalf of your children, or you know, if there are other things that you think, and you don't have to come on mic now, but feel free to reach out to me in an email. And if there are other programs that you know about, if there are other things that you think can be of value for your children, can't promise to do them, but I'm certainly very open to making things available to the kids. Mara, thank you for the feedback. Yeah, now I know we've basically run out of time, but I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Joanne, for spending so much time with us this evening. I know you've also been going onto our town halls and telling the kids about it as well. So we've got a very excited group of kids. We're about to go into a midterm break. It is our intention to give the children access to this resource before the midterm break starts, just in case they want to move ahead. And just from my experience of some of my students, I don't want to create the impression that my students are limited to 1 hour a week. You know, by any means, if a child really gets passionate about it, and as long as they're keeping up with the rest of their Evolve tasks, I'm happy for a child to zoot ahead and you know, complete things in half the time or quarter of the time that is indicated for it, as long as they're learning thoroughly and providing quality assessments. We're very happy with that. But it's been great to have you on the webinar tonight and to hear from you. Is there anything you've left unsaid that you'd like to add at the end?
I think, well, just one thing, and this is more for the kids, Colin, I haven't mentioned this to you. I'm looking to start up a monthly kind of webinar where we'll, just for all the kids with Techways, just to get career guidance kind of information. And I'm actually asking the kids that are already on the platform for what kind of information they would like, you know, what questions they've got. So if you do have any tech fundies in your family, to the parents online, you know, I'll make sure that Colin gets that information so that your kids can just hop online. I'll do it in the kind of evening so that people can join. So that would be awesome. Thanks.
I went to something called a Hackers Dojo when I was in San Francisco, and it was exactly that model where people who were wanting to do, you know, in that Silicon Valley space, wanting to create their own startups or develop their own program, the next Facebook or Twinkle or whatever it is. But they also had this thing where they would bring experts in once a month and, you know, give experts opportunity. And it's definitely something we want to build into the Evolve model, both in the town halls. I've got a tech expert who is the developer of a program called Pop-Up Dungeon, which we've purchased for the students as well. We actually want to teach literature through game, and he is going to come on to the town halls and talk children through the process of being an entrepreneur and all that startup. And we're reaching out to different experts to join us. And just for the parents on the call, we're setting up a webinar with homeschooling experts. And these are parents who've walked the road of homeschooling and have some good tips or hints. So we'll be running a webinar probably in July with someone here in South Africa and a person in America who are parents who have become recognized experts and are reached out to, I don't know if that's good English. You know, they're called upon by other parents for guidance and expertise. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I know that we've run out of it, and I'd like to also, as I say, thank you, Joanne, for giving of your time. Please feel free to send an email through to us if you want more questions, and Joanne and I will make sure that you get a link to this presentation in the next few days. I'll just get the team at Evolve to send it out to you and to all the parents who weren't able to attend tonight. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.